The thing is, a lot of things happened in that house. That feeling of being watched, mainly in the dining room.
You heard voices, you heard people's voices. There was no one in the cemetery. The guy was not there. It's incredible what I'm telling.
I'm from Uruguay, and I want to tell you a series of things that happened in a house where I lived for a while. I don't want to give too much information about this place, as the person who owns this house would probably not agree with me telling all of this. I was in the capital for a few years until I moved for study and work reasons to another city in the interior. When I arrived, I had nowhere to live, so I was finally offered to rent a room in a house. It was a friend's, and as it served me, I accepted from the very beginning. Without knowing, of course, that things would happen in that place that I still find hard to believe to this day.
The thing is, a lot of things happened in that house. I, who always believed in the paranormal, have already had experiences in my lifelong home. But since this experience is recent, I can tell it with more certainty. I can't say for sure what happened when I was a kid, as a child's imagination and mind can alter memories. Things and memories, above all.
I ask you to imagine, to put us in context, a huge house with spacious rooms, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room, dining room, a basement, kitchen, office, laundry room, and a giant backyard with a lot of vegetation that, when being with little, or rather no attention, it was gaining ground at a complicated level. When I arrived, I realized that the bedroom I got was the largest in the house. On one hand, it caught my attention, but the truth is that it was much better and more comfortable for me. So this was more than fine. And one detail is that smoking was not allowed inside the house. So one of those first nights, I go out to the patio to smoke a cigarette. And something happened that left me more than surprised. I was alone the night it was ideal to be outside. The neglected garden was still very beautiful. As for the tranquility, I tell you, there was a moon, so beyond the darkness of the place it looked pretty good. And at one point I see that from one of the corners where I was, as you can imagine, full of plants, something black comes out. At first of a relatively small size, but as the seconds passed it grew to about the average height of a person. I keep looking at this, and indeed it had a shape similar to a person, but at the same time it was like it was changing with every movement. As if it were a kind of extremely thick and very dark smoke, even considering that it was seen among the darkness of this sector full of vegetation. I stood completely still looking at this, which had absolutely no human features. It was just black smoke that moved very slowly. Until at one point I noticed how it began to approach where I was. What can I tell you about that moment? I didn't have the courage to stay and find out what it was about, so I threw the cigarette and rushed into the house. About half an hour later, I looked out the window again, trying to see where it was, but I couldn't find it. I don't know if it had disappeared, had gone back into the plants, or was directly in another part of the house. Another night, being alone with my 2 dogs, I hear them start to bark with a lot of nervousness. Something strange in them, as if they had heard something curiously in the backyard that they didn't like. I look out the window and see nothing. The dogs were still very angry, and to show them that everything was fine, apparently I go out to the yard, and by the way, I took the opportunity to smoke a cigarette. It was night, everything was really quiet, and I was alone in the house with the 2 dogs. As soon as I light the cigarette, I startle because I heard as if someone walked by my side. I looked, but there was no one. And after that, I don't know how to explain it, but you could perfectly hear people walking and running through the garden. It was an unmistakable noise, and I really didn't understand where it was coming from. There was no movement, there was nothing strange that could make it. The dogs started barking furiously at nothing again. But they paid extreme attention to one place, to a part where there was a kind of workshop or shed that was in ruins. It was unfinished. And there were also a few old pieces of furniture that, because they were exposed to the weather, were rotten, directly, and very dirty. This noise, which in theory seemed like people running or walking, is heard around me. There wasn't a particular place. It was incredible. And again, like that other night, I threw the cigarette, ran into the house, called my dogs and locked the door. But this time I stayed looking out the window because I wanted to know what all this was about. And the truth is that I saw absolutely nothing there, just because of the uneasiness I had. I called my friend, the owner of the house who had rented me the room, and told him everything that was going on. I was very nervous because I couldn't quite understand if it was something paranormal or indeed there were people bothering in the background, maybe neighbors I hadn't seen. I didn't know. My friend, in a rather strange and relaxed way, told me to calm down because I was probably tired and thought I heard something weird. But again I told him no, what was happening was real because even the dogs were very nervous. Beyond that other incident with the shadow, which had left me quite scared. There, with a bit more sincerity, he confessed to me that strange things had always happened in the house. But not to worry, because nothing serious was going to happen to me. It was quite normal, then something tremendous happened. And he heard it too, because it was during the phone call we were having. Something or someone started banging on the back door with a force that scared me a lot. The door had some glass panes, so I really thought they were going to break. Luckily it didn't happen, but the whole sheet was shaking tremendously. It was as if someone was knocking with their hands from the outside, but there was no one. At least it wasn't visible to the naked eye, neither through the glass, nor the door, nor even the side window. My friend told me not to open it please and to try to stay calm because just as it starts, it calms down in seconds. As he predicted, it occurred. From one moment to the next, tranquility returned to the house.
And the last situation I experienced in that house was a few days before I moved out. Which, as I was telling you, I had a door would open, a hallway would come out, and at the end of the hallway, my door. Just my door and the hallway, leading solely to my room. I had both the main hallway door and my room door closed. I was lying down watching something and suddenly a cat starts crying outside my room door. And I said, "Did a cat get in?" I was. Logically, if a cat got in somewhere, I opened the cat's door, it automatically stops crying, and the hallway door was closed. I leave the house to see if there was a cat, and the cat is heard crying from my room. And then my dogs start barking. They were in my room. The dogs started barking and like fighting with something. And when I entered, they had bitten the quilt. The dogs had bitten the quilt. They never broke anything because they are used to being inside and they never broke a sheet, a quilt. Some sneakers, nothing, and well, I left and those situations remained. Were you already getting rid of that feeling of being watched mainly in the dining room? In the main dining room, and here I had the stove, the line stove. I spent the winter with the nice stove on. I closed the windows because the feeling that they were watching me from the yard. Half of the house lights didn't work. There were candle lamps in some places where the main lights didn't work. Shadows were seen and the creaking of wooden floors was heard. But sometimes the feelings were overwhelming, as if someone was literally in the house with you. Well, then we rented another one of the rooms and a girl to live. And she every night would ask us, the next day she would ask us, "Guys, who listens to music in Norway? Folk music?" No, nobody. You couldn't hear the street noises from outside or noises from other houses, as there were 2 houses. The houses on the sides were huge and an old couple lived in each house. It's most likely that they would play music for the veterans and she would hear it from her room. But I never heard music in that house, although she claimed she did hear music coming from inside.
Hello, Andres. I'm going to tell you about 2 brief events, but that doesn't mean they're not attention-grabbing. I would like those who follow you and listen to you to voice their opinion. Let's see, what can they give me as an explanation?
This first event did not happen to me, but to my eldest daughter, Nazarina. But first, to help put us in context, I must clarify that my wife, Andrea, passed away in January of 2019 and her remains rest in the Avellaneda Municipal Cemetery. This story is what happened to my daughter relatively recently during a visit to this place, to this cemetery. I must make it clear that each member of the family visits my wife's remains when they feel it, when they can, and when they want to. That is, we don't go together, we do it individually. Once, Nazarina visited her mom at the cemetery, and during that morning, something happened that not only caught her attention, but scared her a lot. She had been at the grave for a while, and at that moment a WhatsApp message arrived on her phone from her boyfriend. She reads it and proceeds to respond with an audio message, as we all normally do every day, without knowing what would happen. Immediately, her boyfriend responds asking her where she was, because it didn't exactly seem to be a cemetery. She checks this audio and realizes that beyond her message, voices could be heard around her. Many voices corresponding to people who were not there, at least not physically. The words were not fully understood because they were speaking at the same time, but it was heard so clearly that it left her frozen with fear.
Nazarena tells me that there was no one in the cemetery. She was alone. She tells me, Dad. She tells me she heard voices. She heard people's voices. There was no one. There was no one. No one dead in the cemetery. And she told me that she erased this audio. That's a shame, because as evidence, it would have been feasible to send you the WhatsApp. She told me, Dad, I got scared. I deleted the WhatsApp. And she told me something very important to her. I won't send any more WhatsApps if I go to the cemetery. Is that a story or an event that happened to my daughter Nazarena?
Another incident happened to me while working as a security guard at the Rodrigo Bueno Gastronomic Patio, a very particular place frequented by many people and that really provides a job outlet for several families. Among the food stalls there was one that belonged to a man whom I became friends with and who also worked as a taxi driver. And it was normal to see him arrive after his shift, park and open the stall. One afternoon something incredible happened, and I'm going to tell you about it right now. This man arrived as he did every day, but this time with a passenger, and it was a very special one.
I see the taxi. He parks the taxi. And what I'm about to tell surpassed me, and the taxi driver, also the owner of the place. The man who was with him in the taxi disappeared before our eyes. Just as I tell you in a moment, in the blink of an eye. The man smoked and it made me laugh at the time. And I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Because the taxi driver opens the door and starts looking for it inside the taxi. The guy was not there. It's incredible what I'm telling, but it happened to this man, and I'm a witness. This man practically vanished before us, before this man's eyes and before my eyes. I didn't pay much attention to it, but it still caught my eye. Then this man asked me, "Did you see my partner?" The man who was with me, I did see him. Where is he? I don't know, I tell him. I don't know why he smoked, but I assure you, in the blink of an eye, this man disappeared. I found the situation somewhat comical because I was looking for him. The guy wasn't inside the taxi car. It wasn't my hallucination, nor the taxi driver's. Is what I'm telling real? That's why you never finish. There's no limit to these kinds of phenomena. Let's call them paranormal. There's no ceiling, nor is there a floor. And this happened around 19 hours. It was daytime. If they ask me how this man disappeared, I don't know, but he disappeared before our eyes. He vanished. We never saw him again. The taxi driver was astonished, and I looked at the taxi driver and asked him, "Where is your friend or your companion?" "I don't know," he tells me. So I went in to look for him. I didn't find him. We didn't find him. Perhaps it's an event that doesn't have a surprising effect, but I assure you that it happened to this man. I'm a witness because we are two witnesses. We looked for the man. He disappeared.
Thank you.